Founders are constantly hearing diversify, diversify, diversify. Trying to do Meta and Google and YouTube and all of this. Why? Because they're afraid they're going to be too dependent on one. And then what they're doing is they're looking at each in-platform CPA. They're looking at Meta. Meta's telling them, oh, you got a 2 ROAS. Too many first-time founders are trying to do all of those things at once, and they're trusting the in-platform. But really, what they need to do is focus on 1 or 2 channels, figure out how to scale it, figure out how to make it profitable, and then focus only on your blended CPA and your blended ROAS to start.
Okay, cool. Jordan, it's the new Jordan, the new era.
It is a new look and babies at home.
And baby.
And a baby, exactly. Yep. We've got a mixed household of cats and babies and a baby at home. So
how excited are you getting? So you've been back home for about a week now?
We have been home about a week, and we've been getting used to new life. Sometimes sleepless nights, sometimes not so sleepless nights, and
that was my follow-up question: was are you getting any sleep?
Thankfully, we've been pretty fortunate. She's an angel, so we've been pretty grateful.
Nice. Well, actually, first time hearing this for me. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I have pictures from Jordan on my phone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And then the other thing, you're looking good, man. You've lost some weight. You've got this facial hair thing I've changed
it all up. I was said, I don't need a comb over. I'm not going to go and get hair plugs. I'm happy to share with everybody, I'm taking weight loss drugs, and they're miracles. So for all those people on Zepbound, it works. And it's a game changer. It allows me to focus on actual work and then, and not have to worry about dieting. And I was like, with all of that, I'm going to shave my head. I'm going to grow out a beard. I'm going to change it all up. So
wow. Yeah,
welcome to the club.
New Jordan, 2025.
Thank you.
You have been knighted.
What's that?
He's been knighted.
I like it though. Cool. Let's do this. Let's count down. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the ASOM Pod, where we talk a lot. E-com is the path that we walk a lot. From 4 point of views when we're talking shop. Amir from the agency and Jimmy from SaaS. John has an Android, but give him a pass, cause he's an operator building brands like a carpenter. And that's Brian, he is the marketer. Like I said, this the ASOM Pod, where we talk a lot. E-com is the path that we walk a lot. From 4 point of views when we're talking shop.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the ASOM Pod. We're continuing our remote interview series, the third one we've done. Today is pretty cool. We're fortunate enough to have one of the smartest people I know, but also someone I get to call a friend. And Jordan and I have known each other for several years now. And as soon as we decided we were going to do this interview series, we had a very, very short list, like single hand digit list. And Jordan was on that short list of people we wanted to reach out and see if he'd come on. So Jordan, dude, thanks so much for coming.
No, thank you for having me. This has been something on my list. I've always wanted to be on the ASOM Pod, and so appreciate it. You guys are crushing it.
And you actually were one Salvit Advisory, but you, your company, you were one of our first sponsors back when we first started.
I believed in you and still do. I love what you're doing and how these are honest and open conversations. And so however I can support the community, I was happy to do it and grateful for that opportunity too.
Well, thanks for that, but also thanks for being here. Just to give the listeners some backstory, because Jordan, you have a lot of things going on and a lot of successes. You and I we knew each other. But the first time I think we had any sort of like meaningful conversation was, I think, late summer 2021. You had just sold KitNipBox.
Yep.
I was not closed on selling BattlBox, but I knew it was happening.
Yep.
And we were on stage together
at some summit.
Through.
Yeah,
at
that's right.
Sub
We were
Summit.
on we were on stage together at Sub Summit, I think. Yeah, I forget who the third and fourth person was. They were featuring people that had exited,
Yeah.
and you and I were up there, just being raw and honest about our exits, and and giving people some understanding that the exits are not necessarily the easiest things, and I think we were sharing our trajectories. So that was definitely our first conversation. It was great to bond on that, and then history there.
And then so fast forward, so co-founder KitNipBox, subscription world that I know very well. Our roads keep intersecting with similar life things, from now babies to back then selling the business, to then one of a small handful of people I know that somehow after selling it got the business back. And so you have KitNipBox back again.
Yep, I do. I have KitNipBox back again. We've got a lot of the original team back with us as well, and we've got a great, similar to you. We've got a great story here. We were able to sell at the right time. We were able to take back control at the right time, and everybody's been having fun.
They say you can't time things, you can't time the market, but when you do, it feels good.
Yeah.
So we talked on KitNip. Really, Salvit Advisors is a whole nother thing, which I have a lot of other friends that use you, and scream from the top of the roofs of how great it is. There's also PaintPlot. So let's go back a little bit. How did you get into ecom? What was the origin story, if you will?
Origin story for ecom starts actually when I graduated from college. I'll be honest. So this is 20 plus years ago. I started consulting for a company called the American Management Association, and that was my first exposure into online advertising and e-commerce. We were trying to sell classes. Management classes, old school. You want to learn how to become a project manager. You want to learn how to be a better manager. This was our way of selling classes online, and I got to learn so much managing $1 million budgets. And back in the day, that was huge. And fast forward about 10 years, I had said, I've always wanted to run my own businesses. I come from a small business household and family. And a friend of mine came up to me and said, let's figure out how to start something. And subscription, this was 2013, and we said subscription is all the rage. Let's try and get into subscription. And I said, great. I love cats. I've always had cats. BattlBox is crushing it. Nobody is touching the cat world. Let's go and launch it. And so we launched KitNipBox in the beginning of 2014, starting to sell cat toys and treats. And I took my search advertising from back in the day, and that was our first advertising. And I said, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to launch basic search campaigns. We're going to figure out what the best intent is. And that took us really from 0 to 1. And we didn't even do anything on Meta back in the day. We didn't start there. We started on search and influencers, and that's got us started. And we went from really there. We growth hacked it. We had a partnership with Reddit our first 9 months into business, and that took us out of that scaled us very quickly. So we're really very fortunate in terms of our timing and how methodical we were. And we didn't actually start Meta advertising until about 12 months into the business.
So I never knew this, that you were search first. We were Meta only. Pure naivety, right? Like, we just didn't know any better. We didn't introduce search until about 12 months into, just because we finally spoke to someone that was like, you're not, you're not doing search? Well, huh? We do Facebook.
And that was 2014 too, right? Didn't you guys start around the same time we did?
We're 1 year behind you. So we launched February 2015.
Okay. Yep.
What was your acquisition cost like for AdWords back in the day?
You know what? It's interesting. I'll tell you now. Back in the day when we first started, our overall acquisition costs were $20 a new customer. right?
Wow.
And people always ask me, what's the one thing you would do, hindsight, look back and understand? And I would always tell everyone, I say, I wish that I knew my numbers better so that I would have scaled and figured out how to get more cash faster. Because those kinds of numbers, again, early days, especially in an early market, you don't know how good it is. You don't know how long that will last. And maybe it was just that we were early into the market, but I wish that we had said, let's go faster. Right. So.
Well, have you been able to support that?
We've supported, so of course, over time, our acquisition costs have gone up, but we continue to use search. We continue to use a mixture of lots of channels in order to kind of support a healthy mixed marketing model for the whole business.
I mean, more like operationally, like would you have the inventory and everything to be able to sustain that?
So that's a great question. I think we would have been able to and
figure it out.
We would have figured it out. We had partners. I'll give an example. So we were in 9 months in, I mentioned that we did a partnership with Reddit. This was again the end of 2014, and they were trying to launch Reddit gifts. And if you know anything about Reddit, cat people are all about Reddit. And so they said, we want to create a subscription box for our customers, Reddit themed, all through Reddit boxes. They had ideas about how to do it, and they didn't know how to. So we partnered with them, and we did it. It was a co-branded Reddit KitNipBox box, and they said, we're going to launch this, and we are going to put advertising behind it. We're going to do it all. They ended up just doing a single post on their blog, launching it. Within 15 minutes, they sold out of the entire initial batch that they said to us we're going to pre-order. Right. So we had given them an option to double up, and we said to them, great, we'll give you that option to double up, but we need a week. They called us up 15 minutes into this being live, and just the blog post, none of the advertising. And they called us up and said, we're going to take that option. You can fulfill it in a week, but we're gonna take that option. And we said, okay, great, we're gonna do it. And it's a fun startup story where we called up our manufacturing partners and we said, hey, we need twice as much than we ordered from you. You said you would have them, and they said, and you said you'd be ready for us in a week. But we went and they said, we'll give you all the components. We can't actually sew it all together. So what did we do? We had all of this product in our little offices, and we were sewing cat toys. So that's my point. When you're scrappy and you want to get started and you see those points of inflection and you hit them and you figure out how to solve the problem. And I think that's what we did in that situation, and we do it again.
That's awesome. Figuring it out. You have to figure it out. You can't stop when you see the opportunity. And knowing, I wish we knew what we know now with those CACs, because we saw the same thing. I would have drained every bank account, any line of credit. I would have gone crazy.
That's right.
Especially for reoccurring revenue, right? Like,
yep.
The cool part for me here too, even, I mean, as early as 2-3 years ago, a lot of brands still never touch Reddit, and you touch Reddit so early on and so long ago. It's just so fascinating, which I love it. I genuinely love it, but that was still also untapped.
I'll say this, there's a lot of noise in Reddit these days, and we were very fortunate because we were able to do a partnership with actual Reddit, which meant that there was authenticity behind it. Nowadays, within advertising on Reddit, within just regular posting on Reddit, and there's so much noise there, it's really hard to cut through. But if you can be an authentic voice, and then that's in any channel, you can make it work. And you have to know, is your customer there? Is your audience there? Are they buying from that channel? A lot of people are buying from Reddit. And so how do you get them to kind of move forward?
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to jump around a little bit. So future pacing. So we have KitNipBox, which we'll get into in a moment. We have Paint Plot acquisition. We have Salvit Advisors, which you've launched and scaled. What's the through line with all of them? How do you manage three wildly different businesses. I think a lot of people struggle with running one and stretching yourself too thin. So all three show success. So I'm trying to understand like what's the secret sauce.
I think the secret sauce is the ability to trust your team and to have smart, proven operators doing them for you, right? So I'm not going to say to you that I do everything in each of these businesses. I don't. And that would be unfair. I sit as essentially CEO of these businesses. Some I take more active roles in, but KitNipBox is a perfect example. Tony Marie, our COO and Chief Product Officer, she runs that business. She is fantastic. I'm able to sync with her on a regular basis, know what's going on in the business, and she's running it. And she's doing a wonderful job there. I trust her implicitly, but I also have dashboards and data that allows me to check on how things are going. What was CPA like? Is something going awry? What's going on that side? So I get a little bit of trust and verify for every one of the businesses. The bulk of my time is spent within Salvit Advisors at this point, and that is where I get to. But even there, we have a team of people that I have built a trust with over time.
Sure.
And that's how I would categorize any ability to live a sane life when you're trying to run multiple businesses. And I think probably even if you're just trying to run one business.
Sales tax stress, let Kintsugi slide. AI in your pocket, now enjoy the ride. 9 hours saved, that's time back in play. No tax guy needed, AI clears the way. Errors cut deep, not with this plan. 98.3%, my man. Click once, integrate, white glove, you'll see. Mention awesome, get 3 months for free. Sales tax headaches? Kintsugi AI turns tax chaos into something beautiful. The smart AI monitors, files, and optimizes your sales taxes automatically, saving customers 9 hours monthly while cutting errors by 98.3%. No expensive tax guy needed here. One-click integrations and white glove support. Mention awesome for 3 months free at trykintsugi.com.
Yeah, I think that's probably such a great call. People struggle with delegation. It's one of those things like people don't want to let go of something.
Here's my thing though, and Jordan, you correct me if I'm wrong here. You're one of those people, and I think, John, you alluded to earlier, extremely smart, extremely savvy. The conversations I've had with you before, and we actually done a recording a couple of years back that blew my mind and took a while to process after we got off the call, but you very much know your businesses inside and out. And when I mean know, it's like a back of your hand. But the other cool part, and I don't know if it helps, with Salvit Advisor, you're taking kind of this consulting business. And does it help to take that and maybe apply it as a consultative role into the other business as well? So it's almost like treating them as your clients with a more active role.
That's exactly right. And actually, the reason that I bought PaintPlot in the first place is that I had all of these clients that I was advising after I sold KitNipBox, and we had built out our software, and we were doing some fun things, and I said, I don't have skin in the game. I give all of my clients advice. I tell them increase spend here, decrease spend there, run this test here, run that test there. And I'm like, I get paid. I'm happy to get paid. That's fine. But I kind of want some upside too. And so that's why I bought PaintPlot in the first place. I said, this way, now when I tell my clients, run this test, I can say to them, I'm doing it too. I've done it with PaintPlot. And now I get to say to them, I've done it with PaintPlot. I'm doing it with KitNip. We're trying this out. This is how we got onto YouTube. This is how we got onto this thing. And you're exactly right. I treat each of these businesses now as a client, and it allows us to share resources. It allows us to see patterns across the board. The only extra part is when I say to any one of these businesses, to KitNip or to PaintPlot, go and do it, people do it. And sometimes the client's like, I don't really want to do it, right?
Fair call.
So that's, I think, the big difference.
Okay, so, all right, so let's get into it on KitNipBox. So several questions. One, so you sold in 2021. Take us there. Why did you sell? Obviously, that's peak. We're talking peak peak e-com, right? Like
Yep.
post-COVID, everyone's like, yes, I need to buy as much stuff. I need consumer debt, getting a check from the government. Anybody that is acquiring company is like wild about valuations, like perfect timing. Like why did you sell then?
I'll be totally honest. We had started exploring an exit already a year before. Before COVID hit, we had started exploring an exit and said, is this the right time? What is the market like? Because there haven't been that many exits in our space. And so when we started the business in 2014, we thought, we're not going to go the fundraising route. We're not going to go and raise millions of dollars like a lot of big companies did. And so we didn't know what kind of valuation we would get. We didn't know what the market was going to be like. And we started that process to understand more than anything else. And when COVID hit and we were able to kind of rocket ship, to your point, and really grow the business even further, when we started to get inbound interest, we understood that the valuations were really meaningful. And I think that was a little bit of luck that we had done the work a year prior to understand what the market was like beforehand and understood we didn't want to sell at those kinds of valuations. And then understanding once again, market hits, it comes to us in the right favor, and let's take the opportunity. And I like to tell people all the time, there's a book by Jim Collins, Good to Great, and so much of that book talks about, and a big part of a lot of Jim Collins' work is that you want to minimize your bad luck and you want to maximize your good luck. And a lot of that comes from planning, from understanding the different pathways and options that are there to succeed. And by having done the research beforehand, having been a little bit on the market beforehand, we understood this is how we're going to maximize our good luck. And we did. So that was that's sort of the origin of our exit.
So you saw the business, you have the exit, you stayed on for a moment of time as an advisor.
Correct.
What changed? How did you say, no, give me my baby back?
I'll say this. After I sold KitNip, I said I made my money from cats, and I have 4 cats at home, and I made a large donation to a cat shelter that I donated, that I got all my cats from, that I adopted from, and when I heard that they were willing to give me it back, I said, hold on, we get to continue to support the cat community in a meaningful way and change the mission to the company so that it's a perpetual cycle of giving back. It was a win-win to me. So when we took it back, I got on the call with the original team and I said to all of them, our mission is not to take cash out of this business, but to rather give visibility to small shelters. So we partner with hundreds of shelters at this point. I said, we're going to go in Christmas time. We're going to send thousands of boxes out across the country to small shelters. And we got 5,000 different shelters that we sent out boxes to.
Wow.
And we got them engaged, and we said, we want to create a program that we can each help each other. And we did. And that has been rewarding for everybody, mission driven for everybody, and fits my soul to kind of help say, hey, we want to continue to feed and support the cat community.
No, that's great. So prior, the first iteration called KitNipBox 1.0, there wasn't that element. You did stuff, but you did it on your own, or wasn't it?
We did stuff, but it was not at scale. I'll be honest there, is that we did it, but we didn't do it at scale. We weren't working with hundreds of shelters every month, right? We weren't out constantly doing outreach to all of these shelters. We had tried to work with the big shelters. We had tried, because everyone says, oh, go work with the humane societies.
Sure.
But you can make more impact. $20 means something to a small shelter, right? The big shelters, they want $100,000.
And only 20 of it is even going to make its way to where it needs to go.
That's right. So we now have this program where we actually, a lot of our Facebook ads, for example, are partner posts where with shelters,
Wow.
and so that any ads, any value that comes from those ads, we pay directly to the shelters, and it's a win-win. We get to grow our business. They get cash to help run their shelters and save as many cats as possible.
I love it.
What
Right.
changed for you to like connect all these dots together? Like, what was it? Is it being more comfortable in the direction of the business, where you're in life? Like it's very fascinating because it's like, and maybe the intent was always there, but it seems like a consequence of just doing something good.
And I think that's the key, is that when we took it back, I turned to the team and said, I'm not going to try and sell this business again. I want us to all connect to this mission together. I want us to all be, having fun, right? Having fun, and know that what you're doing, the work you're doing, is not just about selling cat toys, but is about supporting the community. And the first hire we ever made, actually another Reddit find, was and she's still working for us today. Right. So 11 years later, she's still working for us. And she told us, she said, I'm such a cat person. All I want to do is work for a cat related company and support cat causes. And that was back then. She moved to New York to work for us, and she's still working for us today. And she's a core part of the team. And that's really the mission that we have. So that's a big change, I would say. And I also would say that, having seen what life is post-exit, right? Going and saying, hey, this is what a big company wants to do with the business. They just want to grow, and that's fine and that's reasonable. But I looked at it and said, I'm okay being a mission-driven business for KitNip and supporting the community.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so one of the feathers in your cap is what Salvit Advisors does really well, and that's understand the data.
Yep.
So again, if I'm looking at my data and I have a question, if Jordan's green on Slack, I'm screenshotting and asking him, right? Like, he's one of the go-to people in our circle when it comes to data. So for the listeners, when you're starting a new product or a brand, like, what data matters? Because you can get paralysis by analysis looking at all of this.
Yep. When you first start any brand, and I tell this to everybody, don't stay too focused on your product or to stay focused on, the minutia of all of it. Get out there, and you need to know two main things. One is, what is your cost of acquisition? Right? How much is it going to cost you to bring in a new customer? Are you going to be first order profitable or not? Number two, are people buying your product again? So what is the engagement rate and repurchase rate for the business? But the reality is, if you only had one metric to focus on, it would be CPA and your conversion rate. What are you bringing people in the door? Right? How much is it costing you to bring people in the door? Don't do anything else. Optimize your landing pages, optimize your website, optimize your visibility. Then secondly, figure out afterwards, hey, let me call my customers, see how they're doing. What do they like about the product, not like about the product? But you have to first identify if anyone wants to pay for your product and at what cost. I give a lot of the times I like to think about. Everyone says, certain space is so exciting, I'm going to get into this. For example, supplements. Supplements are all the rage. I want to get into the supplement business, but the supplement space is an extremely competitive space. And so you need to know that what your cost of acquisition is if you're going to start a new supplement. Is it going to, and is that a cost you can afford? And how much do you think that will go up and down? So if you're starting a new brand, that should be your number one, right? And that will also allow you to model out your future revenue. How much cash do you need? How much cash do you need? What's the line of credit you're going to need in order to run and scale that business?
Sure. So, okay. So truly understanding acquisition costs. not to feed the next question too much, but there's a lot of places you can see where what the actual acquisition cost is. So what,
Yep.
what, I'm trying to think how to even word this besides the question, but what do you think that founders are tracking that's irrelevant, like that's not important?
Well, I think that the main element that I would say is founders are trying. There are two elements that I would say. Founders are constantly hearing from all the big players saying, diversify, diversify, diversify. And so they're out there trying to do Meta and Google and YouTube and all of this. Why? Because they're afraid they're going to be too dependent on one. And then what they're doing is they're looking at each in-platform CPA. They're looking at Meta. Meta's telling them, oh, you got a 2 ROAS or you got a $25 CPA. Great. And then you're looking at your Google and somewhere else, and you're trying to see what is the impact there, and Google's telling you something else, and you're trusting it. So what I find is too many first-time founders are trying to do all of those things at once, and they're trusting the in-platform. But really, what they need to do is focus on 1 or 2 channels, figure out how to scale it, figure out how to make it profitable, and then focus only on your blended CPA and your blended ROAS to start. That's not going to work for everybody, not at scale, right?
Sure.
But when you're first starting, that's what you want us to focus on. How much is it every new customer came in? If you're only spending on Meta, then you can be pretty confident that your Meta spend is what's driving your new customers in the door. Right. And it's as simple as that. And so if Meta's telling you it's a $50 CPA and your actual CPA blended is $20 for new customers, you can be like, okay, so Meta's wrong. I got a multiplier here. Right. Or the other way around. Meta tells you it's 20 and your actual blended is 50. Right. You can say, okay, so I got a multiplier in the other direction. But that's how you get a little smarter about it and try to cut out the noise.
Yo, Omnichannel is back with some new swag. AI is now in the mix. Yeah, you heard that. Smarter and better. Let AI decide. Personalize every line. Take your brand worldwide. How about 24/7 support? MJ of basketball, but email to sports. So sit back, relax, watch the magic unfold. Let the folks at Omnichannel get your story told. Tired of staring at blank pages? Omnichannel AI doesn't hit you with writer's block. Their new AI writes your emails, personalizes content, and builds customer segments instantly. Just whisper who it's for, and AI figures out the rest. Join 125,000 users already winning with Omnichannel's email, SMS, and push notifications. Backed by 24/7 amazing support, visit omnichannel.com today.
Yeah, I remember the first time I realized this, so we're probably going back 8 plus years. This is probably 2017, or maybe 2016, because we had just, so 2016, because we've now introduced our second channel, Google search. Wild. But I remember us looking, we're looking at the Google, then called AdWords, and the Facebook platform, Business Manager, and Facebook said we had 600 new members in this period of time, and Google said they had 500, and combined that's 1,100. We only brought in 900.
That's right.
And it was like this moment of, okay, something's not right here, because
that's right.
The attribution. I mean, even in a pre-iOS world, attribution via platform was a challenge to begin with.
That's exactly right. And I don't like taking founders down that path of let's solve attribution early, but we do have to. That's why I say stay focused on one to start, move on to the second after, and then even the smallest of brands can run incrementality testing at this point. And that's what I would recommend nowadays, where I say to small brands, hey, you want to go and try out Pinterest. You think your people are on Pinterest. You want to go test out Reddit. Let's go figure out how to test it. Let's structure a smart test to see if there is truly an incremental value and what that incremental value is of that channel. And
so for anyone listening, I think I don't want to say it's a buzzword. It's a word that, intelligent people talking like Jordan are talking about, which is incrementality. Let's oversimplify it. Like,
Totally.
what is incrementality?
So think about it this way: A/B testing. Everybody, I think, knows what an A/B test is.
I would hope so.
I hope so, but we'll go there. You run
But
some
if not,
traffic. If not, we'll explain a little bit. You run some traffic to your website. One of them's going to go to landing page A, and one of them's going to, and some of the traffic is going to go to your main homepage, right? And what you do is you measure the different behaviors of the traffic, and well, hopefully you have a good A/B testing tool that says all my traffic that ever got to go to my landing page is always going to go to my landing page, so that you can truly see that difference in behavior, measure the conversion rate differences, measure the overall difference. When we think about incrementality testing, it's very, very similar, where what we're trying to do is an A/B test of our traffic, of our media spend. And we're going to say, we spend in Meta, for example, everywhere. And we're going to take certain DMAs, certain regions of the country, and we'll consider that our control environment. And that's our A test. That's our A, right? And then what we'll do is we'll give you a separate area where maybe, for example, we'll take different regions that behave similarly, and we'll test in there. And so now what we'll be able to do is say A versus B, which one's performing better? And how many new customers did B bring in? And I can measure the gap between the before and after, the same way you can in an A/B test, and you can also compare it to the control. And that's really allows us to say, I spent an extra $100, I got an extra 2 customers. Therefore, I know I've got a $50 CPA. People will tell you, oh, you got to be a $100 million brand. You got to be doing X amount of dollars spending a day in order to do that. The reality is we just need statistical significance. And in order to get statistical significance, you either need spend or you need time. And so even the smallest of brands can run incrementality tests. I'm one of my partners, one of my partners, this was years ago, before I had built these kinds of tools out under Salvit Advisors, I had wanted to run Spotify tests and Spotify ads. And I said, perfect, I want to run Spotify ads. I couldn't do geo-targeting on Spotify back in the day. And so I said, okay, let's find specific times of day that we can run in order to compare before and after. Is this going to have a lift or not? What is my baseline when I introduce that spend? And so there are fun ways to be creative about it, but you always want to think about the true structure of that test and how to frame it. What's the hypothesis, and then how do we measure it? Right?
I love what you're saying. I get frustrated when I speak to founders and we talked about it's too small, it's not significant or whatever. But it's like, literally, if you break it down, if you go to a garage sale, you buy something for $20 and sell it for $50 at a profit. Now, if you go to 2 garage sales, 3 garage sales, you're increasing your increments. And when people say, oh, it's only 3 sales, 4 sales, you figure that over 10 channels.
Yep.
Now you're 40 sales a day, where before you were not. And this whole actually analysis paralysis, and thinking about what these big brands do, it's so it's insignificant for most of the people. It's like, figure out what moves the needle.
Yep.
And just invest little. And to your, the Brenda Roy says, I'm putting $100 in, I'm getting $200 back. It's exactly the same as if you were to say I'm putting in $10,000 and getting $20,000 back. It's just scale is different. And it's just, I just love how you broke it down. So I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'll say this. I agree, though, a lot of founders, especially early on, are focused on all of the minutia. They have a hard time getting out of that minutia. And so, to your point, we do want to identify the hypotheses that are going to be the biggest impact, right? So if you think that Reddit is only going to be 1% of your overall sales volume, and it's going to require you to put a full-time person on it, or who knows what, well, then is that really going to be a profitable channel for you? But if you instead think Reddit is going to be 20% of your marketing channel, then let's invest and let's test this out and see if we have the time to make that happen.
So when brands are starting out and they get stuck in all of this, I mean, at what point do you read what other people are saying? At what point do you kind of like learn as you go?
So I think a lot of the um, I think a lot of the people online that are talking about it that you can read and hear about, they're usually sharing about their stories when they're bigger. And so I would say in the beginning, you have to get your hands dirty. You have to know your customers. That's the first thing. And once you know your customers, you can learn and find out where they are. So that's what I would say. Learn your customers first. When we get to scale, it's a very different conversation. Right? When we get to scale, that's when we can start to break out your customers. We can start to break out different metrics, right? And that's a different conversation when you're at scale. But
Sure.
when you're just getting started, learn who your customer is, learn what's making them tick, learn what's getting what the acquisition costs are.
Okay, so in that stage, that pre-scale, you're validating, you're really trying to understand the business and grow it. Any key signals, any indicators that from a data perspective where you're like, oh, look at that, this could be the validation. This business might have the legs needed to go to the next step of scaling.
So I think the validation step is the engagement rate and repurchase rate. That
Okay.
is the validation scale.
How do you define engagement rate?
Sure. So engagement rate is the times and frequency that people are buying your product again. So repurchase rate is a 0 or 1. That I have repurchased a product at least one time. So people like to talk in those terms. I have a 30% repurchase rate in 3 months. And they're like, look at me, I'm fantastic. And I agree, we love those kinds of benchmarks. But that means that we think our customers are only going to buy once. And therefore, that's the metric they're talking about. But really what I like to look at is engagement rate to say, what percentage of a cohort is going to buy month 1? What are going to buy 2 months later? What percentage are going to buy 3 months later? That is what's going to tell us people are coming back, and they're not just coming back once. They're coming back twice. They're coming back 3 times. And now, if I have that kind of behavior, I can predict my revenue. Because I just got a new customer in the door. They came in today, and then I can say, well, I got 10 people today. And those 10 people that came in today, 3 of them are going to buy again, actually this month. And 1 of them is going to buy again next month. And 4 of them are going to buy again in 2 months. And that allows me to be very predictable and prescriptive about my revenue.
And have a really good understanding of what acceptable acquisition costs can and should be, which I think people struggle with.
That was my question too, is like, how do you then balance it out? Because obviously then you can do some acquisition modeling. What can you spend to acquire? But what would be your advice there for people not to put too many chips in one basket when they're doing that?
I think still keep it simple, stupid, right? KISS method still works, right? Where I think we don't try early on to get too complicated. Maybe you do start with a simple repurchase rate. I think I'll get 30% of people to buy again a second time, and within 3 months. And that can be your first way of doing it. When we want to get more sophisticated, we want to think about engagement rate. But I think these are both the same signals that are going to teach us that customers want to come back and buy our product. And that's the most important piece. If you want to know, is this the time for me to scale and put fuel on the fire and grow this business? That's what you need to know. How often are they coming back, and are they coming back and buying the same amount, a different amount that they were on their first purchase? And is this going to be consistent? Because if it is, then I say, great, I'll spend more money.
Fair enough. Okay. So then let's take it to the next step, right? So your customers are coming back, they're repurchasing.
Yep.
The engagement's there. You seem to have that validation that you wanted. So it's time to scale.
Yep.
So once we hit that point, like what are we looking for, right? What once we have that traction, like what matters then? What's the most important pieces of data?
Contribution margin. It's the
Okay.
one. It's the one number, or it's the one number that you need to be thinking about. And I think about it from both a new customer contribution margin as well as a total contribution margin. And this is so critical to understand. And let's define contribution margin for everybody, right? Contribution margin is you're going to take your net revenue, you're going to subtract out all of your cost of goods, your cost of product, your fully landed cost, you're going to subtract that out. You're going to subtract out your cost of fulfillment, you're going to subtract out your cost of returns and return shipping, and you're going to subtract out your marketing costs. Right? That's going to be your contribution margin. And that's going to give us a true sense of, can I run this business profitably? So at scale, that's such an important element because so many people try to game the system. Let's give big discounts, and that's going to bring more people in the door. So that lowers our CPAs or lowers our cost of acquisition, but that actually didn't change my contribution margin, or that lowered my contribution margin. Or I did a big gift with purchase, and that just
sometimes
changed
lowered,
my
sometimes
shipping.
made it worse. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So at scale, we need to be thinking about contribution margin because, again, another piece to think about is at scale, if you've got two different product categories, some are going to be more profitable than others. And if those balances shift and you weren't expecting it and you were just using random averages, oh yeah, my general average is 50% or 60% gross margin, you're going to be totally thrown off and up creek, excuse my French, when you see the financial books closed whenever you
Yeah.
close them. And you're
Math
like, wait, I
won't be
don't
mathin'.
understand.
Yeah.
Exactly. Math won't be mathin'. And that's the big deal. So, yeah.
Set a fire to your past, but don't panic or fret. Live Recover is here, they'll take care of the rest. No bots up in here, just real humans with trust. Whatever you did in the past, leave it back in the dust. Man, conversions are rising like your ROI. 6x your revenue, and that's not a lie. Sales team in your pocket, day and night, bringing in-store vibes to your site, that's right. Your abandoned cart is missing the human touch. Live Recover adds real people to your texts. Live agents who chat with customers in real time, driving higher conversions and sales recovery. Setup just takes 10 minutes. Connect, chat, and convert. Just like that. Visit liverecover.com today and let them know Awesome sent you.
Cool. Okay, so how do you use data, right, to improve other things? So we're a scaling business, we're a growing business. We just spoke about margin, right?
Yep.
We know that, especially when we're talking about repeat purchases, how important retention is.
Yep.
Everything we've talked about, the reality is we haven't mentioned lifetime value, LTV, which is kind of this very important North Star that's doing a lot of the math for the other stuff.
Yep.
How do you do it? How do you use this data?
So I'll say this. I think it's really important to benchmark your business. And when I say benchmark, I actually think just setting up your own revenue model to start, right? Where you can build out a revenue model that has certain assumptions. How much existing customer revenue am I going to get versus my new customer revenue every month? Right? If you build that off, and let's just say I'm expecting to do $1 million of revenue this month, and that's going to come $250,000 from new customers and $750,000 from existing customers. What that allows us to do is then say, how are we trending in each of these categories? Where is that revenue coming from? Which channels? Am I on Amazon? Am I on Shopify? Where am I? And are they coming in at my expected rates? Now, immediately by doing that, it's a high level picture, but it allows us to say we're doing well, we're doing better than expected, we're doing worse than expected, which lever is going up or down, right? And that's our beginning. That's something I would start with everybody, because then it allows you to create cash flow predictions. It allows you to do it allows you to do those contribution margin and net profit margin pieces. And I think people are scared off by those kinds of models, but they're not so crazy. And then number two, what that allows us to do is be very structured in our thinking. What are the tests that are going to move the needle the most, right? So if we want to improve our profit margin, what's the biggest way to get more people to buy a second time? right? Let's get people to go from order number 1 to order number 2. Let's run some structured A/B testing. People don't talk about A/B testing for products, right? What is your product packaging going to be like? Can we change the product? Can we put an insert in product in half the new customers? Can we not put an insert here? Can we do something else? What are the things we can do to move those levers in the smartest way? And that it comes with really that structured thinking and the structured approach to it, but really not to try to bite off more than you can chew. Do one thing at a time. What's that one biggest thing that's going to move the needle for you? What's your hypothesis? It's going to change the trajectory of the business. Let's do it. And then let's move on, test that, continue. And it's an iterative process to keep making your businesses better.
No, makes sense. I mean, there's definitely seems to be a theme here, and it's the structured incrementality, right? Like it's really just it's almost like a science of just it's very straightforward. Like it removes a lot of the uncertainties if you just do this in such a experiment-ish manner.
And I'll say this, people are all for A/B testing continuously on the website. Let's find one way, because they understand if I change the conversion rate by X percentage, that's going to bring my CPAs down. But really, there are all kinds of levers within the business that are very similar. Right. And how can I negotiate? If I can negotiate with my 3PL to bring 50 cents off of my cost per order, what is that going to do to my contribution margin? Right. Or if I go and get people to buy a second time 3 months before, right, what's that going to do to my lifetime value, and where do we go? And so we need to look at the whole business and analyze what is that number one, because it's also a reality. Founders, businesses, they don't have unlimited resources. We can't do everything all at the same time. So instead, we look at it and say, what's number one? Let's prove it works. Then let's do number two. Let's prove it works. And that's how, again, to go back to sort of Jim Collins and his books on Good to Great and what keep businesses that way. It really is that kind of thinking. Right. How do I climb Mount Everest? What are the landings I need to reach? How do I get to that point? How do I ensure that I have the resources I need when I get to this landing, when I get to the next landing, and then eventually make it all the way to the top?
Sure. Okay. So, you've actually written an article before, that was on Online Queso, talking a little bit about AI, but where does tech, automation, AI, where does it serve? How does all that serve its purpose in all of this? And I mean, the landscape's changed a little bit, right?
The landscape has changed a lot. And I think AI is very useful to help you automate as much as you can. I think and really it should cut out the noise. I think we as founders have shiny object syndrome. We see new things, we're like, oh, let's go and do it. But I would tell you most of the time, don't do it. But when it comes to AI, same thing. I think AI is really great. If once you identify the biggest lever, go to AI and have it give you ideas for that lever. So for example, if you look at it and say, I believe I need to have product enhancements, and here's my product. My product is a hat. What are the different ways that I can iterate on my hat? Go to AI and ask it. Ask it those kinds of things. Give it ideas. If you know creative is your biggest weakness and that's going to move the needle the most, go to AI and help you do it. But don't try to go to AI and say, here's my whole business. Go solve my problems and figure out what's wrong with my business.
People are doing that, by the way.
Oh, I know people are doing that. And it's a shame, because actually Apple just came out with an entire article, a research paper proving that AI is not able to solve problems it hasn't been trained on. And it hasn't been trained on running a business. It's been trained on creating language models and on interacting with customers and customer service and programming certain basic things, but it hasn't solved running a business. Maybe it will train them to eventually get there, but it's not there yet. So leverage it for what it's been trained to do. Don't leverage it for what you need to do.
Can we just add to that list too, not just blindly copying what other people are doing without serious consideration, because I can tell you how many merchants we have. They're like, oh, so-and-so is doing it. It must work. We'll just copy what they did. It's
Yep.
like, we can A/B test it and let's see
Yep.
if it works. So this is just on a website. I can only imagine with packaging, with all of these other things, with the contribution margin, how these blind decisions can ruin a business because they're not focusing on their core values.
Not only that, I think that's a perfect point, Amer, that people will come and say, this big company is doing that thing.
It must be
And
right.
It must be right. But that big company is doing that thing because they can buy it at scale. And chances are, for example, Apple, I want the best packaging. I want it to be an unboxing experience. I'm going to have a million little things tying it together. They have a 90-something% gross margin on their products. Their packaging, they can afford all of that. And at scale, it costs them a couple of pennies. If you and I went to go do that for our businesses and we're going to buy 50,000, 100,000 units of something, it's still going to be 10 times more, maybe not 10 times, but 5 times more than what Apple's paying for it, right? We'll be underwater tomorrow if we went and did that. So we can't do that. We're not apples to apples there.
I think that's a fair call. Okay, so businesses continuing to scale. We talked about in the beginning, maybe it's 1-2 channels. You're trying to grow the business. Eventually, there's more channels, right?
Yep,
So
yep.
Eventually, omnichannel. Even though I hate the word, it matters.
Yep.
But omnichannel also can bring chaos and crazy. And
you can speak to that. You just launched a new channel and the chaos and crazy of your new channel, right?
Yeah, and you and I have chatted about it. It's literally it's chaos right now.
Yep.
It's planned chaos. It's chaos that we've accepted and we knew what was going to happen and we're managing it as best as we can. But how can brands just think about that? How do you expand into the new channel and not lose focus or profitability, or to your point earlier of shiny toy? How do you, what's the right approach?
I think it's unique for every brand. You have to know what is the right channel for your brand. But what I like to do is stay focused on my most profitable channels and when I know that channel is humming and it's doing really well. And I've got people similar to what we started today's conversation with. I have people running KitNipBox. I have people running PainPlot, right? They are running and operating. It gave me confidence to go and do the next thing. And same thing with a channel. If you've got teams of people or you've got someone that's delegate and they're running that perfectly, great. Now go and build out the next one. Unless the main channel is just not profitable and you need to find the next one in order to become profitable, I would say stay focused until you have that locked in. Once you got that locked in, move on to the next one. Right.
Sure.
And kind of continue to move forward. I know brands that have stopped, have waited for a long time to get onto Amazon. They were afraid of it. But the reality is it was smart for them because they didn't have the resources and bandwidth to manage the 2 channels. But it's a worthwhile thing to get to that point. And I have another, but it's also very important to reassess your profitability in every channel regularly. So have a client who was on Shopify, their own site, was on Amazon and in retail. And they really were pushing all 3 equally. But we said, hey, let's take a step back here and recognize that your Shopify channel is not growing as much. We are investing lots and lots of money into growing the business for the Shopify alone channel. Let's see if we can scale the other 2 elements of the business, the retail and Amazon, independently. If we can do those independently, then let's save our cash. We don't have to have all of that money being burned on the Shopify store and our own direct-to-consumer store. And once we did, we proved that we could scale those other 2 channels independently.
Yeah.
That became the shift in focus.
Yeah, and we're talking about contribution margin. We're in your scenario here, like the reality is not all channels are created equal. Right. I see in the post, call it late 2021, shortly after we both sold, early 2022, all of a sudden there was this whole groupthink from D2C that's like, oh, we've got to get into retail. Like we have to, let's go. We have to be in retail yesterday.
Yep.
I was infected by it. I had,
Yep.
whatever you want to call it. So the reality is all of us know retail's a completely different animal, different margins, different terms, different everything.
Yep.
Sometimes a different product.
Yeah.
So when you're working with clients, like how do you advise on that? How do you advise that, hey, maybe you should look at retail or wholesale or maybe you shouldn't? Like what's the thought process?
I think it comes down to the expertise and the resources of the team. That's the biggest element that I would say, and that I give advice to everyone. If you have the resources of the team and it's separate and you have the cash to support it and you have the lead times for it, yes, I 100% agree. Retail can be right in many different channels, right? You and I have a good friend, Nathan from Pipsticks, and this was a big thing for him. Oh, we have the resources and time, and that's going to be a big element for us. But for other brands, when it's an either or, it's a retail or it's a direct to consumer, it's a retail or an Amazon, then the decision should be made based off of contribution margin in the short term until you can afford more resources to do both. And that's, I'd say, the biggest piece. As we're single-threaded people, right? We're humans. We can only do one thing at a time. We want to claim we can do millions. Again, you want to go to AI, set up a million AI agents. They still need your approval. You still are going to do it, right? And so you're not going to go there and be upside down and just have all this extra resources overnight.
No, I think it's a very fair point. All right. So final lens. Like fast forward the rest of this year. I mean, personally, you have a lot of amazing things going on, but what are you excited about right now for any of the businesses? Like what's on your mind?
I mean, I personally, I'm excited for Salvit Advisors, we've launched an Incrementality beta where we're getting people in and we're getting them to test incrementality this way. And so that I'm really excited about because I think I'm trying to open it up to the masses. I think everyone needs to be thinking this way, and I'm really excited about that. And I'll say for D2C, for KitNip, for PaintPlot, I think this is my own hot take. I think Meta is starting to solve some of their problems that they caused from iOS, and we're starting to see a lot of things turn around within Meta. So I think we're going to start to see a lot of people preach from the rooftop. Meta's doing well for them again. But I'll say this, we're going to prove that with good incrementality testing across the board.
Fair enough. Couple thoughts there. One, I've said it multiple times. Obviously, Jordan and I speak outside of this. Jordan, you know that I will be, when you have the bandwidth, down for a little incrementality test with your new beta on the BattlBox side. Two, I put it in my newsletter the other couple weeks ago, but 4 weeks ago, and it was obviously a strong introduction offer. Stronger and better positioning and better product and more exciting. I'm not going to act like it wasn't. But the reality is we saw CACs, we saw acquisition costs at numbers we haven't seen since 2019.
Mm-hmm.
That's 6 years.
Yep.
That is wild. So a very, very breath of fresh air hearing you suggest the same, and maybe I'm just trying to be bullish and the glass is half full, but I think he might be right here because it's just wild to see that. Like,
yeah,
and
right.
It's not like we had it one day. We spent a considerable amount of money over a period of time, close to a week, before we didn't have any more product to do.
Yeah.
And sorry, we had to pump the brakes.
Well, lucky you that you
Yeah.
had it, that you were able to get that out. Next time you'll buy twice as much product so that you'll be able to do
Yeah.
even more. But I am very bullish on this space when you are being intentional about how you are testing, how you're doing moving forward. And it's why I have two brands in this space, and I love what I'm doing, right? I talk to D2C brands that are doing all of this, the omni-channel approach, but really they're doing it all every single day. And if I wasn't bullish on this space, I wouldn't be doing it.
And I love that you get to be at both sides of it, right? Both sides of the table. Like you you have the ability, which is rare, where you could say, hey, this is what I think you should do, but you also can take that same advice and execute it on your brands, which checks a bunch of boxes,
Yep.
quite frankly, right? It gives you additional intel on it, but also you're eating your own cat food.
There you go. I appreciate you changing that one.
One common mistake that you're seeing seasoned brands, vets, what's a mistake you're seeing with data and growth that brands are making?
They're still thinking in shiny object syndrome, in my opinion, right? They're looking at it and saying, "Oh, I saw X thing dip. My direct traffic changed. My this thing changed. Who knows what?" And they're really trying to go and I heard this on that podcast. Excuse all the podcasts that but I heard this here and I heard that there and I didn't, and I'm going to go and try it, right? The reality is we need to do less. That is how we're going to do more.
Can you fix that though, or is that just? I don't know if we can fix that. That's just, I think, a lot of these operators.
It's human nature. There's no
Right.
question. But I think if that's what we're preaching if that's what we're preaching all day long, I will be a happy man.
Yeah, fair enough.
One big thing I tell every brand, it's not what you're missing, it's what you shouldn't have. And
Yep.
people rarely ever do audits of like, what's the noise that's costing me sales? But it's keep adding and adding and adding.
Yeah.
So we know, okay, last question. So we know that the mistake, which that's the shiny syndrome. Anything listeners should do differently after this episode? They have one takeaway. What should they attack? What should they do? What should they listen to? What should they scream?
Just because I've mentioned the book multiple times today, I feel like going to read Jim Collins' Good to Great and Built to Last.
Yeah, an affiliate link for this one?
I don't, and I
already had it in my cart.
I feel like I should,
You should have.
and I'll tell you, I don't. Everyone, there's a whole debate online: is listening to audiobooks, reading? The answer is yes, and I listen to all of my books, so that's how I read them all. I do my 90-minute walk, and I listen to an audiobook, and I'll say, go and do that. Think about it, because then you can understand you need a long-term perspective. Even if you want to sell your business, and you're like, I want to sell my business in 5 years, I want to sell my business in 2 years, I want my exit, whatever. You've got to be thinking in a long-term view, and Jim Collins lays it out really nicely, especially data-driven.
You know what's wild? I have never, not even once, I've never listened to an audiobook.
Well, then that's your homework, is to listen to an audiobook, and I actually believe the narrator...
I don't even know what platform do I use? Amazon?
Yeah.
Is that a platform?
Amazon
Kindle?
has a platform,
Kindle?
Audible, you can do it all.
Do I have to buy a Kindle?
No.
Okay.
It's enough.
And you've got Spotify. Spotify now has a huge Audible library as well. A huge, audiobook library. So you can do it in Spotify too.
It's life-changing.
Yeah, it is life-changing. So I recommend doing that. Go and listen to it. And if you're ready to run an incrementality test of any way, shape, or form, let's talk about it too. But that should be these next couple of weeks.
Last thing, Nathan, our buddy, and if he listens to this episode, I hope he does. If he makes it to the end, who knows? He might though, because that guy is a maniac. He listens to stuff at like 2.5x.
I will tell you, I don't listen to books at 2.5x, but I listen to all looms, all videos at 2 to 2.5.
He must have gotten it from you.
I don't know that he got it from me, but I can't take credit for that. I do
the same thing.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
All right. So takeaways, I need to, 1, do an audiobook, and 2, I need to then speed it up. It's like a hack.
That's
Jordan.
the only way to be productive. Do it all and trust your people.
Jordan, thank you so much for coming. This was fun. It was good to get the three of us on. We did this very similar pre-podcast like
Yep.
several years ago.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. I really appreciate you having me. This is great.
Cool. Well, that concludes. What, Amer? You got something?
No. Thank you.
Oh.
I loved it. I listened a lot, and it was again just like the first one. A lot of amazing takeaways. So
Yeah,
thank
this
you
is
for
a good
being here.
episode. Jordan, thank you.
Thank you. I'm
this
happy you had fun with it.
Welcome to the ASOM Pod, where we talked a lot. E-com was the path that we walked a lot. But now the question is, will you subscribe or not? Ha!